Dave Weiss here with the Glue Bomb Show. Well, today I decided I'm going to do kind of a step-by-step build. Now, you're not going to see everything because that would take too much time, but I'm going to show you how I start to go about the project. And the project that I'm going to do is, no surprises here, this guy, the Mad Maestro. Now, I've been looking at the instructions and trying to figure out exactly how to do this build, and I've kind of decided that he's probably somewhat like an electric bobblehead, essentially. So, let's get started on what we're going to do. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is glue a few parts together. If you look at the instructions here, you'll see that the first step is to glue his head together. Okay, because all of us got to get our heads together sooner or later, right? Okay, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to glue his head together, but I'm not following all these steps exactly, and there's a reason for that. This guy has a couple things that if I do these in order, I'm not going to be able to paint him properly. So, I'm going to start off by putting some glue on here, on the just around the edges. The other thing I noticed was that the fit was not quite the way I would like it to be on some of the parts. It's not bad, it's not hideous, but I'm definitely going to want to use some putty. And so that eliminates something that I will often do. I will often actually paint the pieces ahead of time. I'm not going to do that here, and the reason for that is, if you notice like in the back here at the seams around the neck, they're probably not real noticeable. However, they have a pretty good sized gap in them, and I don't want that. So we're going to be applying some model putty to this before I put the final things on. It calls in the instructions for me to also glue his teeth in. You see he's got some teeth right here. I'm not going to do that yet. I think those teeth are going to be easier to paint separately, but we got a few things we're going to have to clean up here just a little bit. So I'm going to start by just putting that together, and then we're going to put his mouth in. I have debated, and I'm still kind of debating about whether or not I should paint those pieces first. I think I'm just going to glue it in place and try to paint them in place. I'm hoping I don't regret that. Again, I'm not in my build room tonight. I'm in the other room here in the kitchen, working on the table. I've got a piece of foam core down on my table to avoid cutting into the table, of course. And because one of the things that I really don't want to do is make a mess of the house doing this. Right? Because model building's supposed to be fun, and it helps if it's fun for the whole family, right? And if they've got glue and cuts in the table, chances are that's not going to be fun for them. So, I'm going to be careful to make sure that we have everything protected. If you look at this now, you'll see again there's a little bit of a gap at the top of the mouth, so I'm glad I did this like this. We will be sealing that crack up as well. Not too extreme with that, though, because, of course, I want to be able to have that line to delineate where the paint goes. And then we're going to cut this other piece off and do the same thing. So we will have both sides of his teeth in. Again, this is a situation where we're not exactly going completely in order. I guess we are at this point, but we won't be for long. Because, again, I don't want these things to have a whole bunch of seams. In the beginning, I didn't worry about that, but I really like to build characters and creatures, and so I really want to try to make this really nice and tight. As I know, I call it the Glue Bomb Show, but I still want to have the nicest pieces possible, right? So, there we have it. His mouth pieces are now in place. We got his head together. It says also, evidently there's a little reed to stick out of his mouth like a weed, so I'm not crazy about that idea, but it calls for it, so we're going to put it in. The next step they would tell you is to put his hat on, and then to wind that hair thing that they gave around it. We're not going to do that right now, and the reason for that is really simple. If I put that hair on it, and then I went to paint this, I would be aggravated, and we don't want to be aggravated. Why? Because model building is supposed to be fun. So we're going to leave the hat off for now. That's going to be one of the pieces I'm going to paint right on the sprue. Next thing that we have is a structural piece. This is on the inside of the creature, and it is this piece right here. I'm going to cut it off the sprue, being careful not to cut into it too hard. And I left a little piece of sprue there, so we're just going to shave that just a hair. And remember, always cut away from yourself. Learned that in Boy Scouts. Now, this is a structural piece, but it's also one of his legs. You see the little calf bump out there at the bottom. This is the piece that seems to control a lot of the motion. The motor is going to push this up and down. That's going to move the head and also, I believe, the arms, because the next piece that we're putting on is a cross piece that handles the arm structures. And that is right here. Almost looks like an axle. This looks like an axle for one of the Weirdos cars. It might be, but that's not what we're using it for here. Now, this is weird to me, because I'm thinking I should cement this piece in place. It doesn't say do not cement. And yet I can't imagine that... oh, I see. All right, see, it's going to pop in there just like that. Except I have it backwards. See, the directions show right here. It's a little hard to see in this illustration. But if you look to this illustration, it shows that this part, these two little flanges here, will go toward the front where the head is. So we're just going to put a little bit of glue on there and glue that into place. Again, I'm jumping around in the order a little bit. I'm being very careful to make sure I don't put something together that I'm going to have to pull apart later. Okay. And remember, once again, you want the forward pieces to be in the same direction as the head hook, which is what that is. All right, so we're going to let that dry. Meanwhile, it calls for the front half of the body. This is the part with the neck hole in it, which would be this piece right here. And it calls for us to lay that upside down and to put the other leg in place. Now this other leg gets cemented into place, and so we're going to take that, we're going to cut it out. It's this piece right here. We're going to cut that out. Now the reason I'm doing all this stuff without painting it is because I want to be able to putty this body before I paint. So we're going to do that next. Keep dropping my things off the table. That's not good. Oh, I've got a little piece of sprue left on there. I'm going to have to trim that. Okay, and then we're going to glue this in place. It's got a little tab here on the front. We're going to glue that. A little bit of glue to it, and inside the body here, there's a little notch to receive that tab. So we will carefully stick that in place. Make sure it's well glued, because that's a piece you don't want to come up. That's definitely structural. Okay. And then it calls for us to lay this piece in place. The leg sticking out the leg hole. Oops, I'm going the wrong way. So it will look something like this. And then it calls for us to take the back half of the body, which looks for all the world like it should be the front half. But again, he's kind of round-shouldered. And we're going to put the glue around the edges. Get that. I'm going to put it... be a little liberal with the glue, because we want that piece to stick thoroughly. And because the next step I'm going to make is going to be to putty around the edges. I won't show you that, but I'm going to putty around the edges after this is all in place structurally. Again, we want this to work in such a way that everything fits according to plan. Whoops. And then making sure we hold everything in place where it belongs. We will come along here, push those two pieces together like so. And again, the seams aren't horrible, but there are definitely seams along the sides there. I'm going to want to put some putty on that. I'm going to use some regular good old-fashioned Tester's putty, and I'm going to smooth that out. And I smooth it out with a loyalty card. Everybody wants to give me loyalty cards, so I decided I'm going to loyally use them to decorate my models. One other thing we'll do tonight before we call it quits, and that is to glue the arms together. Now, in the directions, it shows to glue the hands on. We're not going to do that. The reason for that is really simple. The hands are white. I'm not going to want to paint them white on these hands. As a matter of fact, I'm seriously considering using a rattle can to shoot all the flesh color to begin with. I'm still not sure. It shows giving him Caucasian flesh, and there's a big part of me that wants to make him green, so we'll see. You guys know by now I'm kind of a rat fink guy. I like my characters green sometimes. And so we're going to, I don't know what we'll do yet. I also kind of like the way he looks more in the natural human color. But I don't know. So we'll see. I've got a while to make that decision, because before I can do any of that, I've got some puttying to do. And I just realized that just because the pieces are next to each other on the sprue doesn't mean they go together. So we're going to just take these other two pieces and figure out which arm goes with which. I'm guessing it's like this, yes. Okay. And so we will glue this part up. Make sure it lines up well. Snap it into place. Okay. And you see this, it's got a nice open round hole on the end for the hand to go in. That means I don't have to worry about gluing the hand in place ahead of time. And then we'll do the same thing with the other arm. We'll assemble this. And then, it's late, it's been a long day, and I'm going to call it a night. So, here we go, putting the last arm piece together. Okay, by the next time we see each other, I will have all this stuff puttied and sanded and ready to move forward. All right, that's all I have for now. So far, so good. I'm having fun so far, and that's good, because remember, model building is supposed to be fun. So have fun. Take care.